Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have Lost Treasures of the Bible. This is a National Geographic series. Each episode, there's about six of them, and they're 45 minutes long each, and it just sort of goes through the much of the Middle East and the areas in which the Bible has been set, both New and Old Testament. Primarily the Old Testament, at least so far in the first episode that I watched, the only episode that I watched. This one ties into the story of Jonah from the book of Jonah, right? The book of Jonah? It's been a while. But the story of, if you know your biblical history from the Old Testament, Jonah was the guy who was kind of sent off to, he kind of disobeyed God, and then he got swallowed up by a whale, and because he was given a mission to warn these evil people, the Assyrians in the city of Nineveh, that they need to change their ways or they're going to be destroyed. And after some convincing by spending some time in the stomach of a whale, he was returned and he did the bidding, and the people changed their ways, throwing on, even the king throwing on sackcloth and everything else to make them show repentant and ask forgiveness, and God spared them. But did that really happen? Did that change anything? Did that actually happen at all? Well, it's not really the point of this series to go, well, the whale thing couldn't happen, and just they're not trying to disprove or prove the Bible in any way. It is just using the Bible as a touch point for the archaeology they're doing in these different areas. So when they're looking at the city of Nineveh, that's now currently underneath a certain part of Iran, I believe. I could be wrong. I don't think they said Iraq. I think they said Iran. Well, maybe, well, I don't know. Well, because Babel was in Iraq, and then there's stuff in Egypt. Obviously the stories of Exodus and things like that. But it's there's just a lot of history to be told, and a lot of the people who tell history, and also a lot of the people who wrote parts of the Bible, told those stories hundreds of years later. Imagine anybody telling a story of anything that happened today without access to the internet or anything else, just hearing things word of mouth hundreds of years after 2025 and going, well, what happened in 2025? It's confusing now, and we're in the middle of 2025 as to what's going on. Can you imagine what the stories would be 400 or 500 years later, 1,000 years later, when some of these stories were written after the fact of the fall of these cities, the wars that had happened, the battles? Would they get everything exactly right? And would they get everything inscribed into things that, by the way, the book of Jonah and other things like that, they weren't necessarily written to be part of the Bible. They weren't the Torah. They weren't meant to be part of a greater work. These were letters and stories and parables and things like that that were written and then compiled centuries later into what we know as the Bible. So, or the Torah for the Hebrew people. So, yeah, there's lots to go on here, but this focuses mainly on the history, mainly on the archaeology, and searching out what happened and when, in real time. Looking at it, one of the most fascinating things for me is not only just the history of it, but also seeing the kind of the recreations of what the cities might have looked like back in those days. They do some art and digital 3D, recreations as to what they can assume things look like based on the way the walls that they find, they dig up, and the buildings, what's left of the ruins, and what they know of the history of things that have survived in other areas. Not much, but to be able to get an idea of what everything looked like and when things happened. There's evidence that there was a point in which certain kings, and certain king, I believe, of Nineveh, had stopped going into battle. They were kind of, the Assyrians were kind of well known for their relentless slaughter of their enemies and going to war and capturing their enemies and then deporting them to other lands as a punishment. for defying them. There's a lot going on there. So yeah, there's a lots to get out of this. But if you were looking for something to prove the Bible right or prove it wrong, you're not going to find that. You're going to find some insight that says, you know what, things kind of line up, and they could be, maybe historically close or accurate in some way. But there's no way to prove that it was because a guy jumped out of a whale's mouth, said, hey, stop being bad, and then they just changed their ways and stopped killing. Because they still went to war, it's just some of the kings didn't go with them. A spoiler. So, yeah, this is, it all depends on what you're into. But again, this is, if you're expecting something out of this, other than some solid archaeological work and exploration of history based on known facts and some assumptions, obviously, because you can only get so much basically from the writings of that time and other things. The Bible can't be the only source for these things. It has to be corroborated with the history. The second thing here, I was almost tempted to watch because it talks about Noah's Ark, and that is one of the most. Every so often I see people going, oh, we have absolute 100% proof that we've found Noah's Ark. No, you haven't. They never have. Every single time somebody goes, oh, we got 100% proof that the Ark was here. Then they get another proof that he was up here. And then there's some other stuff that's over here. And no. It's not a thing that you've ever found, and it's certainly not exactly to the specs. Again, there's so many people who want that story to be 100% down to the cubit true and proven, but every single time somebody is lying to you. I wish it would be amazing to find something like that you can provably go, yep, that was the thing. It's not happened yet. Just saying. But no, I did not watch it. So it's basically talking about Noah's great flood. And imagine that part of this story would be either corroborated or denounced through archaeological finds and digs. But I haven't watched it. But if you want to watch that might give you some more insight that you might be looking for or not looking for. But yeah, I'm not trying to be controversial or poo-poo your beliefs or anything else. I'm just saying there's a lot of people trying to mess with you in order to get more clicks and more fame and more power, more wealth. And unfortunately, that's how it works these days. Me, I don't make any money doing this currently. At the time I'm recording this, I'm just doing it for fun. It's a sucker's game. Let's pick tomorrow's episode. I'd love to make a few bucks off of this, even especially when I have to watch whatever's at number 4. Because I have a feeling. No, maybe it's not. No, it's not. If it had been 5 or 7, it would have been something that I was very hesitant to watch. But I want to watch this. It's another documentary, yes, I know. There's too many of these. There's lots of these, all that are remaining on Disney Plus, more than anything else that I have left out of movies. Documentaries and reality, series and shorts. Documentaries and reality are the most we have remaining in the probably less than 150 items remaining on Disney Plus that I have not watched. So here we go. This is new to the list, and I hope it's still on here. And I hope it didn't move to Hulu. Oh, it would be because I did that with the Korean stuff recently. I discovered I lost 7 things. It was originally showing as part of Disney Plus, not a Hulu thing. But this one is called Adam Eats the 80s. Why is Adam eating a decade? Who is Adam? I don't know. We'll hopefully find out when we watch Adam Eats the 80s on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.